Hey, everybody, and welcome back to Keeping It Real with Tiff and Carl. I'm Carl Rabun,
Tiff Salcido.
and it has been a minute, and it has been a
I
journey,
have several
right?
minutes, several minutes.
Yes, and we are
Yeah.
in the full swing of spring, 80-degree weather, right? Not having, I brought a jacket last week to where I was and didn't have to wear it. So I didn't, it's when I start putting up my hoodies, putting them in my vacuum sealed bags, right? And which is sad because I'm a hoodie weather person, but also now I got a nice collection of t-shirts to wear too. So
Nice.
yeah,
Your legs aren't humid yet?
my legs they've been humid all day. All right, it's crazy. Now I got to go from the heater
Um,
to I got to go from PG&E to SMUD now because I'm going from gas to electricity. So yeah, with the AC, you know, but we'll see how it goes. So how's your how's your travels been lately? Were you anywhere fun and exotic?
So many places. I have been on a roll lately. Last week was hell on wheels. I don't know how else to describe it to you. Um, Keys, hold on. Uh, I was in San Francisco for a few days, and then I went to Ventura. And then I went from San Francisco, I taught a full day, and then I was in Ventura the next day. So I didn't get to Ventura till like 11:30 at night. And
Wow.
it was a long day, but it was fun. And it was a great, like San Francisco, I had never trained in San Francisco in person.
Mhm.
I had only done it virtually. So this was my first time like being on Mission Street and live and in person with the people, but it was super dope.
Yeah,
I met some really cool people. Rosario in San Francisco is just a gem. She is like the
amazing.
sweetest person in the whole wide world. And then in one of the classes, we had this guy. I don't know if I'm supposed to talk about him here, but his name was Jesse. And
Uh-huh.
Jesse was just like joy personified. Can I just tell you, like the second I met him, I wanted to like squeeze his face off. Like I don't know if you've ever like wanted like you love someone so much you want to like, make their eyeballs pop out. That's how I felt about him. And he matched that energy with me. I even got him to do a cartwheel later on in the day, which was a
Oh,
whole
wow.
situation. I had people doing cartwheels in my class last week. That's how it went. And then Ventura was awesome as well. Like I just love the people there. I mean, it was just I had a really great training week. It was just a long travel week, but
Yeah.
it was a good time. And then I
Did you
left.
drive
I
up?
got home. Huh? Did I
Go ahead.
drive?
I was saying,
No, I
did you
was gonna
drive
say
up the coast?
I did not because I had shit to do. So
Yeah.
I drove the fastest way that I could go because I had so many things I needed to do. Because I came home on Friday from Ventura. And then Saturday I left for Mexico. So I'm in Mexico again. So I didn't have any time to waste. There was no scenery or luxury about it was like point A, point B, the fastest way I can get there because I had stuff to do. But I'm here in Mexico now. And yesterday was the most glorious of glorious days off. Like I don't know if you ever have a day off where it's just like magic. It was magic yesterday. I woke up, my cleaning ladies were coming to clean the house. They brought me shrimp because one of the girls, her husband's a fisherman, so they brought me fresh shrimp, which I was super stoked about. And then I went to our little community pool, and I do these things called fivers. I named them. I made this whole thing up, but I call them fivers because there's this cool spa in Southern California, the Glen Ivy spa, and they have this hot and cold pool. So you go from
Yeah.
like the hot jacuzzi to the ice cold pool. It's amazing, right? I
Yeah.
hate it.
I've been
When
there.
I'm doing it,
Yeah.
it's painful. It hurts so bad, but
Yeah.
you feel so good when you come out of it. So I have like created like a version of fibers to kind of mimic the hot cold therapy. Our jacuzzi is pretty hot, but the pool is heated, so it's not as cold as the cold plunge. So what I do instead is I do 5 laps. So I go 5 minutes in the jacuzzi and then I get in the cold pool and I do 5 laps. And then I go back in the jacuzzi and then I do 5 laps. And I do that 5 times. So
Wow.
I did that yesterday morning, and then they have the pool always plays music, but in the morning it's kind of commandeered by like the 175-year-old ladies that live in this community. So it's always like 60s and 70s, but yesterday they had 80s and 90s music on and they played Depeche Mode. So I was super thrilled. I'm like doing my fivers, Depeche Mode came on. I was like, this is life. And I went and went and did all my little errands and stuff. Like it was just a good day yesterday, all like from morning till and I was in bed at 7 o'clock, but don't judge me. I was it was fine. It was like a great day off. If you ever had like a really good day off, yesterday was a really good day off. So
Wow.
that's been my
Sounds like
that's been my journey. Yeah.
sounds like you messed around and got a triple double. So
I did. Mama
yeah.
cooked the breakfast with no hog. I got these mangoes that I'm not kidding you were like the size of footballs. I'm not even exaggerating. They were freaking huge. So I cut up
Wow.
these two big, big mangoes. And so yesterday I was eating like mango with yogurt, like this Greek yogurt. Oh, so freaking good. Like I was just kind of sitting in appreciation, like I am living my best life. Like everything is good. Everything is
Right
good.
on. Right
Yeah.
on.
And then today I'm cooking. Today I'm cooking for my little staff that works at the brewery. There's this group of four people that work at the brewery, and they're just so nice and they're so like competent and amazing. And so I always want to like treat them to something because they work so hard. So today my husband smoked some pulled pork, and I made homemade mac and cheese and some corn on the cob. And so he's delivering that while we do our podcast today. And then I'll go stop by a little bit later on and see how they liked it. Liked it.
Wow. Liked it.
Liked it.
Sweet. Love it. Love it. Love it. Sounds like you're having a great week.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
am. It's amazing. I
Yeah.
needed it. I needed it because I was burnt out last week. I was so tired. I was exhausted. And um, like I love San Francisco. I love being in San Francisco like so much. I forgot how much I loved it till I was there, and I'm like, I freaking love this city. But it's also really tiring because it's hard to get from point A to point B unless you take public transportation, which I have my dog, so that wasn't working for us. And it's just again a lot of time in the car last week, a lot of long long drives, and so I was spent to say the least.
You're making me miss home. So yeah. But I'll be back there. Guess I'll be back there in May and a couple
Awesome.
times in June. And I'll get to see Rosario and I'll squeeze Jesse's cheeks for you. So just
Oh, I
yeah.
love him so much.
Did you get
If you
any
see him, you
mariscos
will
while you were
know.
there? I know.
I
I
did not.
yeah.
Yeah, I
So
didn't get many scopes.
two storefronts up from the training center is a Marisco's place. That is
Yeah.
amazing. So yeah, I go there every
Well,
time I go there.
so here's the thing with that. I live in a Mexican village that's known for seafood. So I
Hmm.
wasn't really super invested in eating Mexican seafood in San Francisco because I'm like, I can get that at home. But
Yeah.
I did go to the Peruvian restaurant down the street,
Oh,
meaning the
that
Peru.
too. Yeah.
That was 20 out of 10.
La
I have to
Perla.
tell you,
Yeah.
yes,
Yeah.
the Peruvian place was so good. It was so good. Like I can't believe how good it was.
Yeah.
I licked my plate clean. Like usually I take like leftovers from lunch. There was not a leftover to be had.
Yeah.
I pounded it. I pounded it like it owed me money. It was so
Did
good.
yeah, there's a an employee that works for San Francisco County that is Peruvian and she set up last time I was there, she set up a lunch for like where you go there and they give you like a prefix menu and you just pay like 20. It was awesome. It was so cool. So yeah.
Look, I know the whole scoop on that. Her name is Elvita. She's the
Yeah.
owner's sister. I got all the
Yeah.
achievement. Believe me, I
Yeah.
got
Yeah.
the whole setup on that. And so,
And so
yes, her name is Elvita, and she's
yeah.
the sister.
And then the next
It
time you
was
go there, across where the Harley Davidson was, so just up the street further past the
yeah,
coffee shop there, there's a barbecue place. That place
I
is
saw that
bomb.
one too. Yeah. I still
Yeah,
need one too. I ended up eating Thai food. The Thai food was all right. It wasn't the best I've ever had, but it wasn't the worst I've ever had. So I'm not complaining about the Thai food. It was just
yeah,
mid, right?
yeah,
So the barbecue place interested me, but the Peruvian food I will definitely revisit. There was a lot of food options, I will say, a lot of interesting food
yeah,
options. And it was funny when I got there, Rosario was like, if you want to go get a coffee, you can get coffee from the Chinito across the street, which is funny to me because that's what, in the Spanish language, Chinito is
yeah,
an Asian person. So I'm like, oh, she's telling me to go to the Asian guy. But then
yeah.
it was
Or
called the Sweet Chinito. So I was like, oh,
right,
that's the
sweet
name of
cheek.
it.
Yeah, yeah. It's
She
funny.
told me to go to the Asian guy.
So yeah, I always whenever I get credit card receipts, sweet Chinitos, like always makes me laugh. But yeah, they
Yeah,
have bomb breakfast sandwiches, just so you know.
good to
Actually,
know.
croissant breakfast
Good
sandwich,
to
and
know.
then Mitchell's ice cream, which is the next block over. Because I grew up in Noe Valley, which is right there, and Mitchell's is the best ice
You
cream
did
you ever
tell
had.
me that. You did tell me that
Yeah,
last time. I remembered about the ice cream place, but I didn't remember about the ice cream. I couldn't remember and I didn't want to ask. I didn't want
yeah,
to bother you, but I should have bothered you
right.
maybe.
That's all right. That's right. So, folks, that is our travel tip for the week. Mission Street,
Yeah.
Mission between Cesar Chavez and 29th Street. There used to be a bomb
That's good.
taqueria, Taco Loco, which burned down a few years ago, but it was our favorite 3 o'clock burrito, 3 in the morning burrito joint. And so it's gone now.
Mm.
But yeah, anyway, so you got me waxing poetically. I had fun. I started the week in Madera County,
So I was in
and
Madeira the week before.
yep,
Yeah,
they remembered. Yeah, I remember.
yeah,
Yeah, they said, "Oh, your friend Tiffany was here the week before. You guys have a podcast?" It's so funny.
we do.
Yeah, yeah. And then Tuesday, I met my dad up at the casino above Madera, and we we took a drive out to Yosemite, which is the picture behind me, and it was such a cool spot. I swear I'd been there before, but I don't remember getting there on that road. So it's just so maybe it was the first time. Maybe I've just seen that vista so many times, but it was just amazing. Just hanging out with my dad. And then I was in Yuba City on Wednesday, right? So Madera to Yuba City to Placerville to, and in the meantime, I got to go to Yosemite. So, God's country, you know,
Yeah.
having a blast. And then I was in Fresno yesterday and turned around and came back, and I get to be working from home pretty much for the next week and a half, which is pretty cool.
That's me. That's why I took off to Mexico because I have virtual classes just this week, which I only worked 2 days this week. I really, really tried to be intentional of giving myself a break during springtime
Mhm.
because that's about this time is when I call it my spring meltdown. I think we talked about that last time. I was getting
Mhm.
close to it. So I tried to take some time off, but I needed a place to fit these virtual classes. And I thought, well, you know what? I can do a couple virtual classes and still be in my relax mode.
Yeah.
Um, I'm doing a couple of days of linkages overview with another co-trainer, which we've never trained together before, but she comes with like several decades of experience in child welfare in Los Angeles County, which means that she's got to be tough as nails. And she seems really sweet. We had a few meetings before this training that we're doing together, and she seems really sweet. So we'll see how that works out. We'll
Very
see how it
cool.
works out. But
Very
yeah, I'll be
cool.
back once I get back. I'm like on the road, boom, 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 for nonstop for probably 6 weeks before I have a day to catch my breath.
Yeah.
But tis the season.
Yes,
Tis
it
the
is.
season.
Yeah, and this
Yeah,
is this is the time of year where, we crank it up. So it's
yeah,
it gets there. And then we'll be, you know, cranked up until probably the middle of July. And then a little
right.
bit of a breather
And then we have
before it.
tribal tennis,
That's right. At
and then we'll have
Pachanga,
tribal tennis.
right?
Yes,
So,
I'm excited. That one's like by my house, and so I'm actually
yep.
pretty excited because I'm just down the street, and I'm very, very happy about that.
Yeah. Very cool.
I, yeah, I It's wild to me to think about it, but I'm already booked through April of 2026, right?
Yeah,
That's scheduled a year from today, which is great. Like, I'm not mad about it, trust and believe, but I have something at least every other week from now until April of 2026. And so, um, that's good. I feel good about that, but I also, it kind of freaks me out a little bit because I'm like, oh, my schedule. It's like, again, where do I take the breath? I'll breathe when I die. How about that? I'll breathe when I die.
that's
I'll
right.
never I'll never be mad about being overworked again. I promise you. I promise you. I don't
Yeah,
want to take that for granted. I don't want to. Not, I'm knocking on wood just in case. But
exactly.
that's the Gen X
Exactly.
in me. But that is the Gen X in me
Yeah.
coming out.
Yeah, we got to get our hustle on. You know?
That's right. I'm a house baby. I've been
Hey,
listening to some dope music this last couple weeks too. So
yeah,
just going back in time. I've been going to the old school and feeling myself a whole lot, having a good time.
very cool. Yeah. So I have a question for you.
Ready for it.
If you had to change your name, what would you change it to?
Well,
Oh, you already
that's
have.
a super, yeah, no, that's a super easy one. I'm just like, depends on where I'm at. I have so many alter egos. So, so I'm gonna spill all the beans right now. For years, I was Samantha Machado. That was my fake name. That was my made up name, Samantha Machado. And then I met somebody named Samantha Machado, and I felt terrible for ruining her reputation. So I changed it. And then I became Zoe, Zoe with the Y. That was my, that's still my alter ego when I'm in the States, is Zoe, Zoe with the Y. And then when I was in Italy, I was Santa Renata de Napoli. That was my Italian alter ego. And here in Mexico, I am Ana, Ana Salcido. So Ana is my name here. So I think what would I change my name to? It really just where I'm at and what I need. So Anna's the go-to right now, which is it's funny because I have to remember how I introduce myself because people will come and say, "Hey, Anna," and I'm like, "Oh shoot, that's me. Oh yeah, hi, nice to see you again." And then I give them my card, and my card says Tiffany, and that's always a fun conversation. So, what about you?
This is kind of boring, but if I had to change my name, because I've already changed my name.
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't know that. What was your name
So,
before? Now I need more information.
so my name has always been Carl Damian Rabun. And, but I went, my family knows me as Damien, right? And so it's, just, my family name. I have an Uncle Carl. My dad named me after my grandpa. I was the firstborn grandson. He wanted to honor me, honor my grandpa. But my Uncle Carl was there, so everyone called me Damien, right? And so that was my name. And then when I got into kindergarten, the Omen came out. And so, oh, are you the son of the devil? Do you have 666 in your head? He, right? And all that crap. So
Yeah.
starting in first grade, I changed it to Carl. And I went by Carl. And that's so people who know me professionally know me through school, right? Baseball, right? Other things that I've done, music, they know me as Carl. And my family and people who know me through my family know me as Damien. And so um that's so if I was to change my name, I would go by Damien. I think Damien's a much more interesting name, and I feel more, I feel more like a Damien than a Carl, right? So
Damien it is.
if I had to change it again, then I would go by Damien. But it's too late to do that now, right? Maybe,
Never too late.
if I ever hit it
Never
big,
too late, Damien.
American Idol or something,
Yeah.
I would, you know, do it that way. But, that's so, yeah, that might sound boring, but just because I've had to deal with that, right? So,
So funny thing here. My middle son, his to me, his name is AJ. AJ.
mhm.
I've always called from the day he was born, he was AJ. I actually wanted a girl. I didn't find out what I was having, and I wanted a girl. And when so he was born a boy, I didn't even know what to name him because I wanted a girl so bad that I didn't have a girl name picked out or a boy name picked out. So
Um,
I've called him AJ since day one, and I forgot to tell him his real name is Austin until he was like starting kindergarten. And so it was like this awkward conversation as I'm dropping off at school. I was like, "Oh shoot! Before I forget, your real name is Austin." Yeah, I should have told you that 5 years ago when you were born. But so they're not going to call you AJ here; they're going to call you Austin. And so he became adamant at like that age that he had a school name and he had a home name. And so you could not call him AJ at school and you could not call him Austin at home. That was like the thing. And so he, at
wow.
one point, I'm from a small town. His cousin, my sister's son, they were in the same class. And so my nephew Travis used to call him AJ at school and he would get so pissed. That's not my
Mm.
name. That's not
Yeah,
my school name.
yeah,
So we had to like have like family conversations around AJ's name. So poor kid, sorry AJ. He probably has a complex at this point, but I will always call him AJ for the rest of his life. He'll always be AJ to me. But everyone else knows him as Austin. So sometimes when I hear him talking about Austin, I'm like, who the hell are they talking about? I'm like, oh, they're talking about AJ. My baby AJ. AJ fits him so much better. He's not an Austin, he's an AJ. I don't know.
yeah,
Maybe he could legally change his name to AJ. It made me
yeah.
think of also what name it made me think of freaking the Friends episode where um Phoebe was going to change her name to something something banana hammock. Princess Consuela Banana Hammock.
Wow.
I'm trying to remember the name. But she was getting married or she got married and she was going to change her name. And they said, what do you want to change it to? She's like, I could change it to anything. And she was Princess Consuela Banana Hammock. And I thought that was hilarious. My name change is ruining my life when I changed my name when I got married because I dropped my middle name because my legal name. I don't know if I want to say this out loud. There's too many data miners out here, but my legal name was Tiffany Ann and I dropped the Ann. That's why I go by Anna. That's why Anna is my Mexican name. That's why that's the name I chose because it's technically my middle name is Ann, but Anna is what I go by here. But Tiffany Ann Bizak is my maiden name. But when I got married, I didn't want to lose Bizak, but I didn't want to hyphenate. So I dropped Ann as my middle name, made Bizak my middle name. And so it's Tiffany Bizak Salcido. But on my passport, my birth certificate, they don't match, obviously. And the Mexican government's not a huge fan of that. Not a huge
No,
fan of that.
yeah,
So I've been trying to like rack my brain, like how do I fix it because I want to get my residency here. But it's going to be a process. And so I'm not a big fan of dealing with the US government right now for name change. I don't think it's a good idea to send my passport in anywhere right now. So I'm just gonna wait and see what happens and just renew my visa every time I come in. So I'm have legal status here. I don't want to break any laws, but um, yeah, name changes are a pain in the butt. Let me tell
yeah.
you.
Okay, well,
But maybe next time I'll go with Princess Consuela Banana Hammock and just go with it, roll with it, see what happens.
yeah. So, do you have a question?
Um, I really well, you know what? Let's go with this. So let's go with like your best day. If you had just like your best day, like what would it consist of? Like just a good ass day where you went to bed and you're like, today was a really freaking good day. Like what would that consist of? Since I had such a good day yesterday, I'm curious about you.
Um, I think wake up about 9:15, and take my time, maybe do something athletic, tennis or golf or something like that. And then come home and, watch a ball game, maybe, you know, Giants or Warriors or 49ers or, especially the Giants beating the Dodgers. And that would be fun. And then, maybe just having a gig or a concert, where we sang for played for a couple hours and hung out and then just had a nice dinner at, one of my favorite places and just to be able to, come home early, 10:30 and just have a full day and then be able to wake up again at 9:30. So good 24 hours, right? So yeah,
That's a good one. I love
yeah,
it. I
but I
kind
do
of on
need
the
that
same
time.
wavelength as you. Yeah, I'm kind of on the same wavelength as you without the losing teams, but and no sports. I could care less about sports. I like to give you a hard time, but honestly, I care nothing about sports. Nothing. But I agree. Waking up, I don't know, 9:15. I'm gonna say I'm gonna wake up when the spirit moves me, which
Well, that's what I'm saying. Usually it's been about 9:15, 9:30 now. I don't really sleep in unless I make myself sleep in. So,
yeah.
you know,
It's funny because so here in the Mexico house, the sun rises like by my bed. So about 6:10 or so, or depending on the time, 6:30, the sun is up and you can see the water like from my bed. So if I look up like this, I can see like the sun rising over the water. It's like, I don't know, it's magical. I don't know how else to describe it. But it makes me want to wake up early. Like I am up with the sun, which is not who I am as a person. If I my normal like wake up time, if I don't have an alarm, is usually like 7:38, depending on the
mm,
day. That's about the time I wake up naturally. But I end up waking up around like six yesterday, 6:19. I was up at 6:19 yesterday for no good God reason. But
I,
but
yeah,
it's
yeah,
I know it's I didn't do it on purpose, but again, the sunrise is so pretty that I just
yeah.
want to like take it all in. So, again, I think like waking up, seeing the sunrise, having a nice breakfast, a good cup of coffee, which I do cold brew when it's warm outside. I have this like gallon thing that it's like a
Mhm.
dispenser. It makes the freaking best cold brew. So a good cup of coffee, I love going to the pool in the morning and swimming. So that was like, again, yesterday was why it was such a magnificent day, is like being in the water, being by the water is like great for me. And I agree with you, like spending time with like friends or loved ones. Although I wouldn't go out to eat if it was really my best day, I would have cooked a magnificent meal for people that I love. And I think my youngest son's birthday is Friday. He'll be 23. And I think I'm missing him a whole lot. I've been seeing like little kids running around, and every little kid I've seen reminds me of him. So I think I'm missing Eric, but he's coming to see me at the end of this month. So I'm gonna make him something that he loves. So I think cooking a meal for the people that I love and just enjoying like dinner and then hanging out and then going to bed early, that's my best day.
Right
Best day.
on, right
So
on.
good times. Good
Yeah,
times. But every day can be a good day if you try hard enough. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. I'm on that wavelength right now. I am in my, kind of live in the moment era. So I just really try to be appreciative of every single thing that you can take in. I've been keeping in touch with some, old friends. I've been one of my close friends is my ex-husband's sister-in-law. Her and I, when we were married to the brothers, we got along really well, and we've never lost touch. Even though I haven't been married to him for like 20 years, I still keep in touch with her, and I've been talking to her a lot lately, and she's a cool lady. So I enjoy her like dope. I talk to my friend, dope every day. Like I don't know. I've
yeah.
just been my friend Irene. We just been really connecting. So I don't know. every day's a gift. You never know. You never know what can happen. So I'm in that gratitude era right now.
Yeah. Got an
So
attitude of
everything's good.
gratitude.
I
Yeah.
do. I do. I mean, you, I don't know. You can focus on things that aren't right. Like today's tax day. I filed a 6 month extension. I just haven't done them yet. Like, to be honest with you, I started to do my taxes and then I saw how much I owed and I was like, you know what? I don't want to. I don't want to right now. I don't want to deal with this right now. So I filed
Hmm.
a 6 month extension. Let it be a later problem. I don't know. Maybe in 6 months, IRS will be closed down anyways. I don't know. We never know what can happen. But I'm vibing. That's all.
I did
I'm
my
vibing.
I did my taxes last night. I was at the tax office till 9:45. Yeah, but
No,
it's all
I
right.
don't even want to. I don't even
I
want
did
to.
them
I
on time.
started it.
Yeah,
I did
I'm good.
not. I usually do. This is the first year I haven't done the first year since I was 18 years old that I haven't finished my taxes on time. But um I've already paid crap ton and I still owe crap ton. And it pisses me off so much that I just can't right now.
Yep,
Like
me too.
maybe I need to spend 6 months in jail. We'll find out. I don't know.
You don't let them send you to El Salvador, right? So,
You know what? I'll take my chances at this point. It's
uh,
I I pay more in taxes than Amazon and Walmart and freaking Elon Musk all put together, and I just don't. I can't
yep.
right now. I don't want to. So I'll do. That's a 6 months from now problem. How about that?
Yeah, well, that's why you're hiding out in Mexico. So, yeah.
I'm gonna try to cross back next week, and they're like, "Ma'am, you have filed your 2024 taxes. I'm going straight to jail. Do not pass go. Do
No
not collect."
Pasco. Yeah, yeah. They're gonna send you to El Salvador. They have
It's not
wonderful
my first
prisons
time in
there.
jail. Not my first
Yeah.
time in jail. I'm not too worried.
Uh,
Anyways,
so we are talking today about the generations.
generations. I don't know if there's a song that's about generations, but I just made one up.
Talking about my generation.
There it is. Okay, I knew there was
By the
one.
Who,
I knew there
right?
was
Yeah.
one.
That's one of those
Yeah.
70s songs that the old biddies probably
The
played.
old
60s.
days. They do.
60s. It's a 60s song. Yeah.
Yeah. That's definitely one of their songs that they play. Yeah, for sure. If
Yeah.
I hear the twist one more time, I'm gonna lose my shit. I'm just letting you know. If I hear the twist at the pool, like we're almost 100 years from that. Like, get over it. There's new music. I want to just hear some Meg the Stallion at the pool. You know what I mean? Like, put some ratchet stuff on. That's what I'm trying to listen to.
Some
I don't need to hear,
Glorilla.
yeah, something. But gosh, I'm so sick of the 60s, 70s music. Anyways, generations, talking about generations.
Yeah. So, it's just funny. We were having that conversation in Ventura a couple weeks ago. I was teaching my generational diversity class, and it was a really good conversation just recognizing some of the challenges that people have and, you know, who's different than what and kids these days and everything else like that. And it's just, something that always makes me think about, you know, how do we recognize people, for who they are? And, you know, what what does it mean to be of a generation? What does it mean to, you know, do something in a way that other people would just lump you in with other people, right? And so, you already mentioned you're a Gen Xer, so am I, right? And so, what does it mean to you to be a Gen Xer?
I'm pretty much better than everybody else.
Well, yeah,
That's
that's a
what it means.
given. Yeah, duh.
No, I'm just joking. You know what it means? For me, like my most like identifying characteristic of being Gen X is that I'm fiercely independent. So, um, I always tell like the younger generations, we were like the last feral generation where we were pretty much raising ourselves. Our parents. if we were in a two-parent household, which most of us weren't. That was when divorce was finally somewhat socially acceptable. So a lot of broken families around the 70s and 80s. And if you were lucky enough to have a two-parent household, chances are both of your parents worked. So we were really like raising ourselves. I mean, there were commercials that would come on, like it's 10 o'clock. Do you know where your children are at? Um, have you hugged your child today? Just again, fiercely independent, and I think problem solvers. I don't know how everybody else grew up, but like we weren't a family with many resources. Both my parents, you know, independently of each other, didn't make tons of money. And so, or my dad made good money. He just didn't spend it on the right stuff. So, um, making to do with what you had. Like there was no, I wish, I want, gimme, gimme. It was like, suck it up, buttercup, and figure it out. So I think like my badge of honor for being a Gen Xer is that, again, fiercely independent and I can make anything work, like MacGyver, like, which is one of our shows. Like, give
Yeah.
me some duct tape, give me some duct tape and a pencil eraser, and I can make a nuclear reactor in 10 minutes. Let's make it work. So I think that for me is like the mark of my generation is that we get shit done, right? We get shit done with very little rah 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 about it. No hateration or holleration coming
Yeah.
from Gen X. So
It's interesting. In one aspect, like you said, we're the last feral generation, the latchkey kid generation, right? And really, the last stay out until the streetlights came on generation, that type of thing. And yeah, I was raised by my mom. My dad was around. I mean, my dad's awesome, and he was around. I mean, he
but
supported me a lot, but he lived in LA. I lived in San Francisco, right? And but he was present in my life. But I, you talk about public transportation in San Francisco. I rode those buses since I was 7 years old by myself, right? And my grandpa was a bus driver in San Francisco, so it was cool. I'd spend a Saturday just riding the buses with him, or just getting back and forth to my mom's work, cross town, blah blah blah, all that stuff, right? And so, just thinking about we were that generation, and at the same time, we're also the first generation of um, much more of a informal way of doing business,
Mhm,
right? And,
mhm.
um, you know, my I just think about my CEO at the bank that I used to work at. He called everyone dude, and he's a year older than me, right? And he went to my rival high school, but it's like, dude, we got to get our sales up, dude, right? Don't you understand wallet share, dude? I'm telling you, And so it was it was a big difference. I mean, we had um, before him, we had two baby boomers who were CEOs. And the first one, he was from Holland, right? So his idea of uh, casual Friday was you didn't have to wear a tie with your suit, right? You know,
Right.
you wear your shirt open. And then the next guy, he was from Canada, but he's a baby boomer, North American. He spent a lot of time in America. His idea of casual Friday was khakis and a collared shirt with the logo on it. And then the next guy was the Gen Xer, and he was like, dress for your day. He's like, if you have a meeting with a client or you work in one of the branches, then you gotta dress up. He said, but dude, if you're working from the office, just if you want to come in t-shirt and jeans, I don't give a shit. Right. And so
Dude.
dude, right? And
Yeah.
but I definitely appreciated that. I don't know if some of the older folks did, but I mean, it happened 6 months after I left and became a consultant. I'm like, wow, why wasn't this happening while I was here? Right. But at the same time, we were raised I was raised by baby boomers and, by, and a lot of Gen Xers are kids of traditionalists, right? So, just even that idea of professional dress is still ingrained in my head. I remember getting my first tattoo and I heard when I was 37, right? And I hear my dad in my ear, even though he wasn't there, I heard my dad in my ear, good luck trying to find a job. The hell's wrong with you, right? So,
Such a
so we were,
non-issue now. Yeah,
yeah, so we were kind of at the crossroads. We were the last generation that had to go to the library after school to do homework or to do a
right.
report with the Dewey Decimal System and pulling out all those cards and crap like
Yep,
that, microfiche, right? And
yep,
all that
yep.
nonsense. And so, we're kind of at that crossroads of technology, with the first, video games. We went from an Atari 2600 to Nintendo 64 in like 13 years, right? Every year there was something new. And so just thinking about that idea of, change, being at that crossroads, being, independent, self-starters, figuring stuff out, and at the same time recognizing that the world doesn't have to necessarily, go the way it always has been, right? And I think baby boomers did that a lot, right? They saw the protests, they were there. Some of the older ones were part of the protests in the 60s, and but at the same time, they still had the traditional values behind them. They still had two parents in the home, right? Gen Xers were, like you said, they're the first generation where a majority of folks did not have two parents in the home, whether it was the 50% divorce rate or both parents working, and so it was just an interesting group of folks, right? You know, and but just think about how that, changes, your value system, right? I mean, 50% divorce rate, right? Having, the baby boomers, traditionalists, hey, if you got to work 12 hours, 16 hours, you deal with it. You got to, put food on the table, right? And it's usually the guy and mother, you're at home with the children and these things like that. And so, it was different, right? It was a different time. And Gen Xers said, hey, my parents are divorced. And maybe it's because my dad was spending 16 hours a day at work. So, that idea
Right.
of casual
Or
Friday.
yeah, now yeah. Or now my mom can have her own bank account without my dad or a credit card without my dad. And
Yeah.
so she can
Yeah.
leave him because he's been an ass since day one.
Yeah.
And now she
Right.
can get some freedom, even if that
Yeah.
means she has to go to work. Put on her Hanes pantyhose, her legs pantyhose, because that's what was in her pumps and her
I
pumps
saw
to go to work.
I saw a meme on Facebook today. You can tell I'm a Gen Xer because I'm still on Facebook. Um, and it said, if you crack an egg and expect pantyhose to fall out, you're of a certain age. So,
Yeah. Yeah. It's funny you say that because here's my meme. I'm a walking meme. When I do my customer service class, I tell people, my first job, my grown-up job was at Pac Bell. So if you know what Pacific Bell
yeah,
is, like I
yeah,
usually see a few people go like, "Oh yeah, I remember Pac
yeah.
Bell." And there's a few people like, "What is it? What is that? What is that?"
My aunt,
So
my aunt
like
worked at
if you,
Pac Bell for
yeah.
20 years. Yeah,
So I'm like, but if you know what Pac Bell is, chances are you take ibuprofen just in case. You don't know what's gonna hurt, so you take ibuprofen now just in case. That's my old joke for
yeah.
Pac Bell people.
My
No, it's yeah. Go ahead, Carl. Sorry.
what's this? My fantasy baseball team is always the Pac Bell players. That's
Yeah.
that's I've been calling myself that since because the Giants Stadium there was first Pacific Bell Park, so we'd always call it
Mhm.
Pac Bell. So for the last 20 years, I've been the Pac Bell players.
What's funny is that when I worked for Pac Bell, we used to get tickets to go
Yeah,
see them play, and I used to go because they were free. So what am I supposed to
yeah,
do? They're free.
yeah.
Yeah. But no, it's funny. It's kind of interesting. Like I know millennials, for example, millennials have gotten such a bad rap for so long. Like oh, those millennials, they don't want to work. They're self-absorbed. They're this, they're that. And I was just like, millennials, like I don't know. They get a bad rap. I don't think millennials are terrible. They're just not going to put up with the same crap that people put up with because they had to. If I go like if we even just think about the workplace, I don't think we have as many like silent or traditionalists in the workplace. Most of those people are retired or dead
Mhm.
or in Congress
Yeah.
or in government, which I saw today the median age in our legislative branch is 65.
Mhm.
65 years old is the median age, which to me is wild, but what else?
Yeah.
Um, But we don't have so many of those. But those people, again, if I think about like how they were growing up and what was going on in their life, they've been through things like the World War I, the Great Depression, part of World War II. And so I think that group was really in this scarcity mindset that you have to work, 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 regardless of the conditions, because if you don't work, you don't eat. And if you uh, don't do what's right by your employer, they can get rid of you. There wasn't a lot of, employee protections back then. If you lost
Mm.
your arm in a printing press, the company could sue you for messing up their printing press because your arm got stuck in it. There was not,
Yeah.
it wasn't super employee friendly. And there was a lot of, again, like I think of it as like the industrial age, a lot of like immigration coming from Europe. So if we're really thinking about who again, this country is built on immigrant labor, a lot of like European and Chinese immigrants building our railroads and building our like again working in factories and seamstresses and all of this manufacturing that we saw specifically like East Coast. It was competitive. So you stayed in line or you got replaced. That was like the the go-to there. So I think the values are almost like gaslit into believing that you owe your employer something, right? Like I owe them these 12 hours. I owe them these 16 hours, even though I'm not in a safe working environment, even though um, I'm not getting paid well, even though my 8-year-old child is coming in on the weekends and working on the machine next to
Yeah.
me. Like, this is what we have to do to survive because we know what it's like to not have this employment. So I have this immense gratitude for an opportunity to be exploited. That's like that traditionalist mindset. And again, my perspective. I'm not an expert in this, but this is what I see. And so they raised the boomers who were like, nah, dog, I ain't about this life. You know, um, I don't necessarily want to die in a factory. I don't necessarily want to toil and sweat on the railroads. I don't necessarily want to do these things. And so I think this is where you start to see a lot of like the service industry start to emerge and more like intellectual work and less like physical labor. But technology, I think, helped a lot with that. So, when I think about like the boomers, I'm thinking of like the show Mad Men, advertising agencies. Women were secretaries or they were clerical, but they weren't necessarily like taken seriously or put in positions of authority or influence.
Yeah.
But it was very much still a man's, and still, I'm gonna say, still is a man's world in the sense of like going to work. And so men made the decisions and women stayed in line and sometimes got their, butt smacked on their way out or, it was not fair. But again, they were breaking like the traditional gender roles and trying to kind of break through into equality, but definitely far from it. Definitely far from it in that baby boomer age. And so, I still see like boomer women who again burn their bras and fought for equality still hold on to some of that like patriarchal
Mhm.
like mindset of well if your boss tells you to do something you just do it, you don't ask questions. And I'm like, not if my boss is a moron. Not if
Yeah.
my boss is an idiot. No, that's my Gen X mentality of no, you don't just go with it because that's what everybody else is doing. Like sometimes you have to fight through that. But I don't know. Boomers are interesting, and I know they get a lot of flack too. Oh, okay, boomer. But I think there's like a real. I think it's true for every single generation that comes next. Is there's always a real comparison to well, when I was your age, when I was your age. But we grow up in different timelines. It's not like how things were for me is not the same as how it is for my children and how it's going to be for their children. And so it's apples to oranges. You can't compare because the worlds were completely different places,
Mhm.
completely different places. So
Yeah.
millennials, sorry, millennials, that you get such a bad rap. You're not bad people. Boomers, you're also, well, kind of, sort of not bad people, but you, you might want to adapt and change to the world. The world has changed, so you got to kind of change with it. Adapt or die. That's the option.
Well, it's funny.
Get out of Congress. Get out of Congress already. Go ahead.
but just thinking about that idea of traditionalists, right? So before World War II, the majority of Americans lived in rural areas,
Mhm.
right? So after World War II, the shift moved to the suburbs, to for the automated stuff, sales, but also for the military industrial complex, right? The great southern migration, people moved from the south out to California, moved up to build cars and whatnot, and that rapid expansion happened. But before that, if you lived in a rural area, I mean, what type of jobs are there, right? Mostly, farm work or manufacturing work for farms, processing plants. That's a lot of hard work, right? That's a lot of bone weary work. And so, and then if you lived in a city, a lot of it was manufacturing and, factories and whatnot. And so, people's values of hard work were naturally different. So of course they taught their boomer kids, you know, what it means to work hard is to have, you know, um, to be tired, physically tired, right? Which is hard for millennials and Gen Z and even some Gen Xers, right? Oh, you guys have it so soft. Well, when that shift happened is, after the Cold War and then all the trade agreements in the early 90s, NAFTA, right, where we took our manufacturing and moved it other places. When I was working at Sears, one of the in the 90s, one of the salespeople said that there was, RCA was um, the last company to make TVs in America, right? Everybody else that made TVs in America, um, they moved them to other places. And he said 60% of the world's TVs are made on a 1 mile strip south of Mexico. I mean, south of Tijuana, right? And so I was thinking about all those jobs that all those folks in the Rust Belt lost. I mean, we don't produce steel, anymore. We don't make cars as much as we did anymore, right? Those manufacturing jobs. So they had to switch. What did they replace those jobs with? IT jobs, call center jobs, phone sales jobs, right? So it went from that blue collar work ethic of being bone tired to the white collar ethic of intellectual jobs. And so we are a country of intellectual jobs now. And some of those older folks, well, that's not, how are you working hard? I mean, you're on, you're talking to people all day. I used to hear that all the time when I was a trainer working for the county. Oh, you have it easy. You just talk to people all day. Do you understand how much energy that takes to actually talk to people all day? Right. And so yeah, you guys are soft. You don't have to have work like we did. Well, hey, my first job when I was a kid was pulling shopping carts at Price Club, right? So and you know what I found out? I didn't want to work, with my hands. I didn't want to work with my back. I wanted to work with my brain, right? And so I took that opportunity that maybe the generation before us didn't have, which is cool,
Right.
right? But then that idea of the American dream, millennials were sold a different American dream, right? Baby boomers were taught do your 30, get your golden handshake, retire, have your house, your 2.5 kids, your swimming pool, right? Your Cadillac, and that's your life, right? Gen Xers were taught get what you can get. That's, get your hustle on and you do you, right? And then millennials were taught go to college and the world's your oyster, right? So
Yep.
more millennials got degrees than any other generation in the history of the world. And they also are saddled with more college debt than any other generation in the history of the world.
Yep.
They were taught by their
Yep.
parents, your first job out of school is going to be $70,000 if you get your degree, because that's what happened, in my generation. And what happened, their first job out of school was either at Starbucks or Carl's Jr., right? And so they were sold a bill of goods. And so they spoke up about it and said, that's not fair. And then, of course, oh, you're entitled, you're little, you're young and kids. So you know, and the oldest millennial is 45 this year, right? And the youngest is what, 29, right? So
Yeah.
just thinking about, I mean, that's a large age range, but I mean, they're not the little kids we used to think anymore. And when I first created my generational diversity class, it wasn't, we didn't include Gen Z because Gen Z were still in junior high, right? And so I really felt like I was defending millennials the entire class. Like, give them a break, guys. I mean, and now I feel like I'm doing that a little bit with Gen Z. But there's a stat that I have, a true or false stat, that, people say true or false, millennials are job hoppers, right?
Yeah.
And and what the stat shows is that millennials are not any more job hoppers than Gen Xers were between the ages of 18 and 30. So is it a generational thing, or is it just the age group of being 18 to 30 and working different jobs, trying to find what you want to do, right? And so that's something that, a lot of people don't necessarily think about. And then, a lot of people still, think millennials are kids, and maybe to some people they are. I mean, anybody under 30, I call a kid. It's terrible, I know, but you know, but it's
Well, yeah, yeah, because you're old, Carl.
that's right. I know.
We're old. We're old.
This concludes part one of our episode. Stay tuned for part two, coming Tuesday to all major podcast platforms.